All right, New York Jets fans, Joe and Bob here with local football flavor, ready to kick it off and talk to you a little bit about the Jets' offseason plans and the things that we think personally that the Jets should look for. And all of you who like the New York Jets know that the number one thing that the New York Jets need to figure out this season in the offseason is the quarterback situation.
Mm-hmm.
Zach Wilson isn't it. No matter how much management wants to say that Zach Wilson is their guy, he's not it. And Joe, we can talk till we're blue in the face about how he's not it, but
Mm-hmm.
summarize in like 5 words or a sentence of why he's not it.
He is inaccurate. He is a slow processor. He doesn't make good decisions. That's about 5 words.
Yeah, and so when you look at it, Joe, like when we look at what's going on in the offseason for quarterbacks right now, it just so happened that Carr was signed or is about to sign with the Saints,
Mm-hmm.
which is a definitely a good landing spot for Carr. Now, word has been said that potentially we could see Aaron Rodgers, we could potentially see Jimmy Garoppolo, we could potentially see a multitude of guys with the Jets. Now, the question being though is this the right play to go out there and get a veteran and still keep Zach Wilson on the roster to learn? Or is it about that time where you just have to say to yourself, like I feel about Michael Thomas in New Orleans, and just say, we're done. We're not waiting around anymore for this guy to get any better or to get any healthier. That he had his time, it's not working, move on.
Yeah, so the thing that the Jets have been destroying themselves with is that they think they need to have a big arm quarterback. And the problem with that is they got someone who can't complete passes that is inaccurate. Again, I point you to Darnold, I point you to Wilson. Both of them have the same process problem of being slow processors. New England has taken the different approach of I'm going to have a quick processor and try to get it out, but New England flat out doesn't trust him, and we'll discuss that in the Patriots episode. But what New York needs is someone who will be accurate, make quick decisions, and not be afraid to push the ball downfield in the center of the field. Because when we watch this offense over and over again, it kind of becomes robotic. Now, part of the reason it's robotic is there's not enough tape of it to truly let them get into a run, let them get into a drive. They're not very good at that. But they do not attack the deep center of the field or really even the middle center of the field all that much. They're a very much sideline type passing offense. And quite frankly, as a coaching staff, I don't even fault them for that. Zach Wilson Wilson misses passes by yards sometimes where he's just overthrowing people. And at least if he's throwing towards the sideline, someone on the sideline catches it, it's not an interception. It's a throwing up a white flag and admitting that he's not capable. But the thing that I don't understand with them is that they simultaneously realize that, but they also abandon the run ridiculously fast, knowing how good their defense is keeping them in games. So when I'm making the checklist beyond the obvious problem of we spend an early first round pick on this guy, can we get rid of him? Is I need to look at a second running back. And again,
Mm-hmm.
you just spent in terms of running back capital, early second round pick, you can't get a second one. Well, you need to. You need to in both accounts. And yeah, you messed up. Now, does that cost people's jobs when they retry? Sometimes, unless you're in Arizona. But
Mm-hmm.
at the end of the day, a veteran, I think, is a better option than a rookie. The question is which one do you get? And then to your point, if you go veteran, do we keep Wilson around anyway? Well, realistically speaking, he's 2 years into his contract. You
Mm-hmm.
have to make the decision: are you going to keep him in his fifth year 2 years later? If you bring in a
Yeah.
veteran, you're keeping him for at least 2 years. So therefore,
Yeah.
simple math says you're not spending first year value on a quarterback on that fifth year. So you've essentially already made up your mind, unless he wants to resign for league minimum, which he can't even do till the end of the third year due to the rules.
Ah.
He's essentially never going to play. You're better off just saying, all right, we made a bad pick. Everyone makes bad picks sometimes. You
Mm,
know, the Raiders cut Leatherwood after 1 year. We gave him 2
yeah.
because as much as they're going to try to spin this and try to say we shouldn't, we're just going to give him better all the tools around him. We're going to make his life simpler. The bottom line is their pressure rate against from their offensive line was not horrendous.
Hmm.
There's not like, oh, you can blow up their left guard and power rush every single play. It's not that. It's he does not mentally process things quick enough. And
Yeah.
it doesn't matter
And
how many interviews he does with Aaron Andrews in the middle of the season to
mhm,
say he's smart and knows what he's doing. It
mhm.
doesn't pan out.
Well, here's the thing you need to look at. When we think about all of the quarterbacks that have played this year, and you think about his completion percentage, most most quarterbacks can throw the ball 5 to 10 yards down the field.
Mm-hmm.
Most. And when you look at his game, what you really want and what they really need is explosion. And
Mm-hmm.
we say this word with a lot of teams. And Zach Wilson cannot complete deep throws. I don't know. I mean, we saw him at times doing that last year, but his completion percentage on deep throws is bottom tier. Like
Mm-hmm.
we're talking lower lower third of the NFL in terms of, I don't know how many quarterbacks actually threw a ball this year in the NFL. It seems like a lot did.
It's almost
Um,
90.
but he is, if you just say there's 32, he's got to be within the bottom three of that.
Oh, he
In,
is.
in
He,
terms
he
of
absolutely is.
in terms of what we're getting for. So the reason I say that is that you've got, unless they've already cut them, Flacco, White, that you've got to figure out what you're going to do with, because you're not keeping Flacco, White, Wilson, and a fourth quarterback on your team. It wouldn't be
Mm-hmm.
prudent. It wouldn't be advisable.
Well,
Now,
you bring in a veteran, Flacco's
like
out.
you
I mean,
said,
that's straightforward.
like you said, they're not really getting blown up on the field, and
Mm-hmm.
that's a good thing. But you can always use depth. So, in terms of offense in the draft, I would think about coming up with a couple of those guys. Now, one of the other things that knowing how good Sauce Gardner was this year and knowing the trajectory of most cornerbacks in the league, I would go out and get another one right away. Um, just because it feels like it feels like cornerbacks are like the new like microwaves of the NFL. They, like newfangled, like new wave microwaves where, you get it, it looks flashy, it looks good, it heats it like a couple of times, and then within a year, it's broken.
Mm-hmm.
And you've got to go out and buy a new one. And cornerback, I don't know what it is, but the cornerbacks that have lasted longer in the NFL, we're talking like careers that like 4 or 5 years that we've
Mm-hmm.
seen them be like really exceptional. And then towards the back half of their career, they're either moved to safety and have to learn how to play safety, or they're just rotational. And you've got to bring them in, bring them out, bring them in, bring them out. Still serviceable. I'm not knocking that production, but it's going to be. I mean, unless you're Champ Bailey, but even then, Champ Bailey started to teeter off towards the back end of his career too, and they're not long careers, and so I would advise the Jets. If I were sitting in the room, I'd say, okay, we got to go after that. Once we get quarterback figured out, my priority is cornerback, then running back, and then you can't go wrong with some linebackers. Having depth at positions. When we talk about teams that are close and teams that are far away, we talk at the Jets like they're very far away, but they're really not. They have a
They're
lot of
not.
pieces. They have a lot of pieces that they can be successful. But the one thing, as in most teams holding teams back, is the quarterback position.
Yes.
And they need to figure it out, because if they would have had a quarterback that could have thrown for, 24 touchdowns and maybe 14 interceptions or 10 interceptions and completed over 60% of their passes, they would have been in the playoffs.
Yeah, if you just give you a pure example here, when they went to Boston to play the Patriots the first time, midway through the fourth quarter, New England had 330 yards worth of offense. Their offense was 86. And that is the difference. You're talking about getting lapped. And it doesn't matter how great your defense is, they just can't be out there that long. It's just a fact. And this is a schematical fight that people can come up with different options when they watch the tape. It's kind of a chicken and egg question. Did their tight end position not exist because he couldn't get the ball to him? Or did they not get the ball to him because he was covered? Now, there are times when he's open and he doesn't look that way, you know.
Mhm.
But I would look at a tight end in the Jets because it's one of the
I would think it's a Zach Wilson, Joe Flacco, a Mike White thing, because when they're on the field, when those three players are when any of those three combinations of quarterbacks are on the field, I feel like, Joe Flacco, I believe he was on the Ravens when they had Todd Heap, right?
he was.
So it seemed unusual that he wouldn't target tight ends. But at that point in time when Joe Flacco was playing, Breece Hall was healthy.
Hmm.
So his sample size is going to be different than Mike White's sample size, or than the early weeks of Zach Wilson's sample size. And when I look at these players, and when you say the chicken and the egg argument for the tight end, is that were the tight ends lights out? No. But when you look around the league at all the NFL, at all the tight ends in the NFL right now, who is? And you can name maybe 4 or 5 that
That's
are
fair.
the target. So if I'm looking at the Jets as a group of players right now and their needs, if they want to get into a more run heavy scheme and take a little bit of that pressure away from their quarterbacks, an inline blocking tight end is not going to be bad for them.
Mm-mm.
A safety valve tight end that maybe gets 3 catches, 30 yards, or maybe 3 catches for 15 yards a game. You're not looking at fantasy production when you look at the tight end. We haven't looked at fantasy production at a tight end in New York in a long, long time.
Hmm.
And so when I look at this situation, it's not that I think that that player personnel group is actually bad. It's just that they're doing stuff with them. And could they bring them out to run routes more? Maybe, but maybe that extra blocking is helping Zach Wilson or Joe Flacco or White stay in the pocket a little bit longer. But that's the problem. The decision making, like you said, is awful. And so,
Hmm.
priority number one, quarterback has to be veteran quarterback. No more young guys. Veteran quarterback. Don't screw them up like you've screwed up so many other quarterbacks in the franchise's history. Number two, cornerback. Cornerbacks fall apart. You need more. Go get more if they're healthy. Number three, running back.
Hmm.
Derrick Henry is said to be up and available. If I am them, I already have a plotter. So I'm not even thinking about Derrick Henry. I don't even want to come close to that veteran style money. But they do need something else. They need explosion. Would it be bad to carry a couple more rookies on your team? No, it wouldn't. If I had the opportunity to maybe trade up for Bijan Robinson, would I have Bijan Robinson and Breece Hall? Absolutely.
Yes.
Because that is not a terrible idea if you know you already have health concerns with running back. And you're going to get Bijan or somebody else equivalent later on. You're going to pay them the rookie contracts, and then if it doesn't work out, there's no skin off your back. But you can't go out there and sign a veteran running back. You do need to sign a veteran quarterback.
Yes, absolutely. And to conclude the Jets offseason with this thought here, they might actually be the most talented team in that division. When you look at it top to bottom in roster, they're definitely more talented than New England, and I believe they're definitely more talented than Miami. Question comes down to Buffalo. The glaring exception being the spot they're least talented at is the most important position. So you fix that up, there is plenty of reason for hope. It does take a large dose of humility to admit that it was a bad draft pick and that I still should have a job and faith that I'm going to have a good draft pick later. But assuming you can overcome that, you're going to end up with someone who's realistically a Baker Mayfield type, which, by the way, is 2 tiers better than what you have right now. And Baker Mayfield was great with 2 elite running backs behind him And the defense you're going to give him compared to what Cleveland gave Baker is night and day. So this could be the recipe of just saying, I'm not saying Baker per se. I'm saying a Baker Mayfield type, which would include Garoppolo, basically any of these quarterbacks coming out there, decision makers. Get the ball out reasonably, get the ball out, push it downfield from time to time. But at the end of the day, true game manager, loves handing the ball off, and you'll be able to win some football games. And there's people out there who are able to do that. There's even backups that are capable of doing that that are much better than what they're putting out there right now. And that's a true statement.
Yeah.
I would love to have Tyrod Taylor leading this team. Tyrod Taylor leading this team could take them to the playoffs. And
Jacoby
that's an
Brissett
example as a
probably could.
backup. So that being said, there is hope as long as the GM is willing to say I was wrong with Wilson, and I would cut it completely clean and apart. But we'll see what they do.